All right, so we are doing 2.1c more slope from graphs notes. This is page 83 in your book. Uh, let's get to it. So it says here, look at these graphs, and what do you notice? Okay, well, when I look at these graphs, the first things I notice is right here, I look on the x-axis, and those numbers are not counting by ones. Instead, they're counting by fives. So each line is not worth 1, it's worth 5. And then I look on the y-axis and I see something similar. Okay, we are not counting by ones on this graph. Instead, on the y-axis, now we're counting by tens. So the x and the y-axis aren't counting by ones, and they're both counting by different amounts. So each line isn't always going to be worth 1. Okay, and that's an important distinction to make when you're looking at a graph. Look to see if they've numbered the x and the y axis. If it's not numbered, you can just assume that they're counting by ones. But if it's numbered, you need to see what are they counting by. Because now when we count our rise and our run, take a look at this. For this one, for this graph, I'll pick 2 points. Remember, we picked 2 points on the line. So I've got a point here and a point here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I'm going up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 3. So could we say that the rise and the run was 3 over 3, or just equals 1? We can't, because we're not counting by ones, right? Instead, let me erase those numbers because they're wrong. Instead, we're counting by tens on the y-axis. So I'm not just going up 3 lines, I'm going up 30. Same thing. I'm not going over 3 because I'm counting by fives. I actually went over 15, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. I start at 5 and I end at 20. So what I'm going to put here for my rise over my run is 30 over 15. Now that can be reduced for this first one, right? 15 does go into 30. It goes into 30 twice. It goes into itself once. Okay, so really my slope for that one is 2. Again, look at this next graph. What do you notice? That was the first question. I notice again right away that not both axes are counting by ones. The x-axis it's counting by ones, but the y-axis is not. It looks like it's counting by 4s. But then when I look even closer, and let me erase my circle so we can actually see it. When I look even closer, here's 0. 4 is all the way up here. There's a line in between there. So it's not even counting by 4s, right? Sometimes that can be a little tricky. Instead, it's counting by 2s. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that's an important thing to look for. It's not always going to be counted by ones, but also it might not even be counting by what the numbers they're showing you are. You have to look and see if they skip lines. Okay, so this one, I know I'm counting by 2s going up the y-axis, and I'm counting by 1s going over. So let's pick our points and see if we can write down what our rise and our run are. For this one, I'm actually going to use just this very first point here and this last point down here. Okay, so when I look at my rise and my run, I'm falling, so I'm going down and over. Well, falling, I go all the way down to 0, but what did I start at? When I zoom in there, it's that line that's between 28 and 32, which is 30, right? Because I went down. Let me zoom out. Because I went down, my rise is going to be a negative 30. And then how far over did I go? I went over 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now both of those numbers are even, so I can simplify that. 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 30 15 times, and since it's a negative 15. 2 goes into 4 twice. And then I can't simplify that any further. Okay. For my next graph, again, take a look. What are we counting by? This time, my x-axis counting by 2's, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. My y-axis is counting by 100s, right? So first, let's pick our points. Looks like I've got some nice points. There is one, and I've got another one right here. So when I draw my rise and my run, when I draw my little triangle here, I can see it looks like I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. But remember, we're counting by 100s. So I didn't just go down 4, I went down 400. And then when I go over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I didn't just go over 5 because we're counting by 2's on the x-axis. So that's 10. My rise and my run, because I was going down, is negative, I'll put that up on the graph too, just to make sure everyone's aware, is negative 400 over 10. Now both of those are divisible by 10, right? They both end in a 0. 10 goes into 400 40 times, so it's negative 40. And 10 goes into itself once. So negative 40 over 1, or just negative 40, right? For this last graph, again, pay attention to what they're counting by. This time, my x-axis is counting by what looks like to be 20s, but then you notice, oh wait, there's another line here in between before I get to 20. So when I'm counting over, they're not counting by 20s, they're counting by 10s because we've got that line in between. And then same thing on the y-axis. Pay attention to what they're counting by. It's not ones, right? Every line here is worth a half. Okay, so I need to pick my 2 points. For this one, let's go ahead and pick this point, and let's say this point. Okay, my rise, even though I'm going up 2 lines, because they're counting by halves, I only went up 1. And then my run is 2 lines, but again, they're counting by 10s. So it's 20. My rise is 1. My run is 20. Whoops. Rise is 1. Run is 20. And that can't be simplified. It's already simplified as much as it can be. All right, so your assignment is on, let me flip over so I can see it, pages 85 and 86. Make sure you pay attention to what the x-axis is counting by and what the y-axis is counting by. Ask your teacher if you need any help.